Monday morning. Monday morning found Tom Sawyer miserable. Monday morning always found him so because it began another week's slow suffering at school. He generally began that day with wishing he had no intervening holiday, since it made the going into captivity and fetters again so much more odious. Tom lay thinking. Presently it occurred to him that he wished he was sick, then he could stay home from school. He canvassed his system. No ailment was found and he investigated again. This time he thought there were colicky symptoms and he began to encourage them with considerable hope. But soon they grew feeble and presently died wholly away. Tom reflected further. Suddenly he discovered something. One of his upper front teeth was loose. This was lucky. He was about to begin to groan as a starter, as he called it, but then it occurred to him that if he came into court with that argument, his aunt would pull it out and that would hurt. So he thought he would hold the tooth in reserve for the present and seek further. Nothing offered for some little time, but then suddenly he remembered he had a sore toe. Very eagerly, he drew it from under the sheet and held it up for inspection. He did not know the necessary symptoms, but it seemed quite worthwhile to chance it, so he fell to groaning with considerable spirit. But Sid slept on unconscious. Tom groaned louder. He fancied he was really feeling pain in the toe. No result from Sid. Tom was panting with his exertions by this time. He took a rest and then swelled himself up and fetched a succession of admirable groans. Sid snored on. Tom was aggravated. He said, "Sid! Sid!" and shook him. This course worked well, and Tom began to groan again. Sid yawned, stretched, then brought himself up on his elbow with a snort, and began to stare at Tom. Tom went on groaning. "Tom? Say, Tom!" "Here, Tom! Tom! What is the matter, Tom?" Tom moaned out. "Oh, don't, Sid, don't joggle me." "Why, what's the matter, Tom?" "I must call Auntie." "No, never mind. It'll be over by and by, maybe. Don't call anybody." "But I must." "Don't groan so, Tom, it's awful. How long have you been this way?" "Hours. Ouch! Oh, don't stir so. Said you'll kill me." "Tom, why didn't you wake me sooner?" "Oh, Tom, don't. It makes my flesh crawl to hear you." "Tom, what is the matter?" "I forgive you everything, Sid. Everything you've ever done to me when I'm gone." "Oh, Tom, you ain't dying, are you? Don't, Tom." "I forgive everybody, Sid. Tell them so, Sid, and Sid, you give my cat with one eye to the girl with golden hair and tell her." But Sid had snatched his clothes and gone. Tom was now suffering in reality. So handsomely was his imagination working, and his groans had gathered quite a genuine tone. Sid flew downstairs and said, "Oh, Aunt Polly, come, Tom's dying." "Dying?" "Yes, Auntie. Don't wait, come quick." "Rubbish! I don't believe it." But she fled upstairs nevertheless, with Sid and Mary at her heels. Her face grew white and her lip trembled. When she reached the bedside, she gasped out, "You, Tom, what's the matter with you?" "Oh, Auntie, "What's the matter with you? What is the matter with you, child?" "Oh, Auntie, my sore toes mortified." The old lady sank down into a chair and laughed a little, then cried a little, then did both together. This restored her and said, "Tom, what a turn you gave me. Now you shut up that nonsense and climb out of this." The groan ceased and the pain vanished from the toe. The boy felt a little foolish, and he said, "Aunt Polly, it seemed mortified, and it hurt so much that I never minded my tooth at all." "Your tooth, indeed. What's the matter with your tooth?" "One of them's loose, and it aches perfectly awful." There, now, don't begin that groaning again. Open your mouth." "Well, your tooth is loose, but you're not going to die about that. Mary, get me a silk thread and a chunk of fire out of the kitchen." "Oh, please, Auntie, don't pull it out," said Tom. "It doesn't hurt anymore. Please don't, Auntie. I don't want to stay home from school." "Oh, you don't? So all this row was because you thought you'd get to stay home from school and go fishing? Tom, I love you so, and you seem to try every way you can to break my old heart with your outrageousness." By this time, the dental instruments were ready. The old lady made one end of the silk thread fast to Tom's tooth with a loop and tied the other to the bedpost. Then she seized the chunk of fire and suddenly thrust it almost into the boy's face. The tooth hung dangling by the bedpost now. But all trials bring their compensations. As Tom wended to school after breakfast, he was the envy of every boy he met, because the gap in his upper row of teeth enabled him to expectorate in a new and admirable way. He gathered quite a following of lads interested in the exhibition. There was one who felt jealous of Tom's new glory and said that it wasn't anything to spit like Tom Sawyer. "Sour grapes," said another one.